This app is used to classify contours of objects. And the object that it's set up to do right now are objects are horses, cats, turtles, and butterflies. And it requires the drawings that you enter to be in a certain orientation. So that's what the point of these are. So, the horse needs to be oriented like that, the cat like that, the turtle like that, and the butterfly like that. Now to build this, what I did is I drew 200 versions of horses in my style of drawing, 200 versions of cats, turtles, and butterflies, and so forth. And so that's altogether 800 drawings. And as I drew each one, I would assign, say, a horse to a class 1, a cat to a class 2, turtle to a class 3, butterfly to a class 4. But now I'm going to draw a horse, and I'm not going to assign it. I'm going to allow the computer to assign it. So my versions of horses are terrible. I'm no good at drawing. But here's my horse. Okay, so now I'm going to classify it. And this is going to take this contour here and compare it to all the other contours, all 800 of them, and then determine which one it is from that comparison. And it worked. Now it works 99.5% of the time, so it's not always going to work, but it usually does work. Now go into the analyze phase, and this will actually sort of get under the hood a bit and sort of explain how it works. Okay, now what it did is this is the horse I just drew. This is one of the 200 horses I drew. It randomly pulls from the database, one of the horses to do a comparison. Since I entered a horse, it's actually, since the computer decided it was a horse, then it goes for the horse for this comparison. And then it pulls one of the ones that are not a horse to do a comparison between a horse and something else. And this sort of allows, to dig into under the hood, as I was saying. Now what do I do here? Here I'm unwinding the contour. And by that I mean what I'm doing is I'm taking the contour and splitting it into its x-coordinates. These are the x-coordinates only, and these are the y-coordinates only. And as you can see visually, in the visual comparison, this red one is more like the light blue one than the dark blue one. Okay, so just from a visual comparison, it kind of gives an intuitive understanding of what's going on, how the thing works. And these are 5 points at a time. And there's a total of 100 points that make up each one of these contours. And so I think it's, by visual inspection, I think you can see that the dark blue differs from either the original one, the one I just drew, or something from the database, one of the horses from the database. So it seems reasonable that there's a way to determine how these things are different. And what it actually does is it actually goes, it breaks these contours up into chunks, the 100-point contours into chunks of 5, and it gets the distance for the corresponding points on each of one of those 5. And here I'm displaying the bar charts, how far away they are. So the red, this shows you how far away the red is from the blue, the light blue, and this shows you how far the dark blue is from the light blue. And so by and large, the dark blue is much further away from the light blue than the red. And these are just the x-coordinates. So now it's looking at only the x-coordinates. Now I go to the y-coordinates. You get the same sort of situation where this is much further away from this than that. And so that's kind of the underlying idea of how this app works. Now it does a little bit more complicated calculations, but not a lot more. And those I want to add some features to the app so I can illustrate how that part works too. But in general, what it's really doing, it's using the distance between 2 points formula to get these distances. So it's, what you see all the time in an algebra class, the distance between 2 points formula. Now what the difference here is, normally what you see in a math class would be you have 2 dimensions for a point or 3 dimensions for a point. I actually am using 5 dimensions for a point. So it's a more general version of that same formula, which I think is a good thing for students to see. They realize that you're not locked into 3 dimensions. And it's also exposure to, how to read bar charts, how to look at a plot and kind of understand what's going on. These are actually 2 functions, how to look at functions. and it also is an exposure to some concepts in data science. Because what happens is this data gets extracted from these contours and then gets placed inside of a regression style program. So that will be part of this, where they'll be able to sort of play around with the program and sort of understand how these programs work. So it's, you're getting exposure to statistics, to just applications of the distance between points formula. You get exposure to reading plots. So I think it's an interesting